What's up, guys and girls? Welcome to trèSci Weekly, Episode 2. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Ullman. Alongside, he doesn't even like jelly, Tom Kaya.
Thanks, John. Happy to be here.
What's up, dude?
How's it going?
Not bad, man. What a week.
Yes, what a week.
Yeah. I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
Doing good. I actually shoveled my car out this morning because I forgot to do that.
Yeah, man.
But now I'm in the science mode, feeling good. Ready to get going.
Sounds good, brother. We got hit with the snowstorm. That totally screwed me up, at least. I don't know about you, but I had, work plans. I had other work plans that were, in case of snow work plans. And then I, had to roll with all that. Trying to put together all the stuff for the show. Realized how much time that requires. It's all a learning process. And, what a week, man. We learned a lot this week.
We're coming live.
Yeah, so we learned that.
Coming live.
We are coming live at you via YouTube Live. So if you're joining us live, we thank you for that. Otherwise, if you're catching this later, it's because we figured out a way to upload it onto
our trèSci YouTube channel, where you're watching it right now, if you are.
Or trèSci Facebook page, which hopefully you're liking and following that. And if you're not watching it there, it's because we didn't figure out how to do that. So, all a learning process.
Yep.
But nonetheless, thank you guys for being here. We encourage you guys to chat with us throughout the show. Hopefully you guys will log into your YouTube accounts and chat with us if anything comes up that you'd like to talk about.
Yep, I'll be reading the chat always, today, and forever.
Yep. Another thing to note is we did change the format of the show a little bit. We realized counting down the top 10 science news articles is really...
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, first of all. And it's kind of just an arbitrary number. But, so from here on out, we're just going to collect as much or as little science news articles.
Science articles that we want to bring to you.
Yeah.
And then we want most of them to come from the viewer.
So hopefully you guys will keep tagging us and sending us the articles you'd like for us to discuss.
On email, Facebook, YouTube.
Yep. Just like Ryan Nash did for us this week.
So he's bringing our first story to us.
He is bringing our first story to us this week. So I guess without further ado, let's jump right
into the news.
All right. So number 1, on February 3rd, the Colima Volcano, a stratovolcano in Mexico, explosively erupted, spitting out ash plumes around 4 kilometers in altitude. This particular eruption has been categorized as volcanian and has been occurring with somewhat regular frequency for Colima. The last volcanian eruption took place just about a week prior on January 26th, and general volcanic activity has been ongoing since at least 2013. Real-time footage for the February 3rd eruption was captured and distributed by Webcams de Mexico. The volcano is monitored by the Colima Volcano Observatory at the University of Colima in Mexico. And we actually have some footage of that volcano.
Yes, we do.
What we were tagged in. So we just need Kyle to come back, and hopefully we can play this video for you.
All right. Yeah, so let's get a chance to actually look at the eruption. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, so we're going to flop over to it too, and we're going to play it all at the same time, I guess.
All right.
Sweet. So it's only a 40-second long video. We see the ash plume coming up.
Yeah, it completely eats the cloud that was above it.
Yeah, pretty sweet.
And this volcano is a stratovolcano. It's a nice tall one.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually the tall volcanoes have the most impressive eruptions.
Yeah.
And it's kind of amazing that, this is happening in a part of the world and we're far enough away where it's irrelevant. But it's an impressive and amazing thing nonetheless.
Yeah. Don't see any lava flow. I don't, at least. No. I did read that there was some. Maybe, I guess, on the other side of it. But there have been pretty violent lava flows.
In the past few years?
Yeah.
Associated with that volcano?
Yep. Gotcha. So that one has been pretty active lately. So
yeah, it's been pretty active over the last few years. Just going on and off. And when you get a lot of ash in the air like that impressive eruption, it causes all kind of problems. It'll affect your weather. It'll affect whether you can travel, obviously, if that stuff's in the air. And big eruptions like that could really hold things to a halt for quite some time in that area. So, other than it was a kind of a cool thing that Ryan tagged us in, I don't think there's any breaking news stories about it. It's just this has been erupting, and it's a pretty cool thing that we wanted to check out. And we thanked Ryan for giving us that.
Yeah, definitely shouts out to you, Ryan, for tagging us in there. The only thing I would have to add to that is I wonder how long this volcano will stay active for.
Stay erupting and active.
Do you have any insight as to...
I don't know anything about this particular volcano, but I know that you can take ground measurements when you get shifts from that you can measure seismically. You could see that there's activity still happening, but for this particular volcano, not sure.
Okay,
not sure on the time frame.
Yeah, cool. All right. Our next story is actually brought to us by two different individuals.
Yes.
First, we were tagged in an article by Katie Kremens, and then immediately following that, same day actually, I received a text message from Chris Dudo, and both were sort of referencing this...
what they heard in the news about what you can observe in the night sky.
Yeah, this astronomical thing. So here we go. Number 2, on Friday, February 10th, skywatchers on the northeast coast were treated to a penumbral lunar eclipse. Differing from a total lunar eclipse, a penumbral lunar eclipse occurs when the moon passes through only the outer, diffuse shadow of the Earth. This typically makes penumbral lunar eclipses a bit more challenging to observe, since the shadow only creates a subtle dark region on the face of the moon. Lunar eclipses of any kind are only ever possible when the moon is full. For this particular celestial event, many news outlets and social media posts refer to the full moon as a snow moon, which is the Farmer's Almanac designation for the full moon in February. A fitting title since Winter Storm Nico dumped quite a bit of snow on us here in the Northeast the day before. In addition, Comet 45P Honda Merkos Pajduszkova, I think that's how you say that.
There you go.
I'm not going to try again. Passed by Earth later on the same evening. If you didn't have much luck finding Comet 45P over the weekend, don't feel bad. Many amateur astronomers reported that even with proper equipment, this was a tough object to spot, and the comet was not bright enough to see with the naked eye. Comet 45P's eccentric orbit will see it off into the deeper regions of our solar system, but we'll be back again in 5.25 years.
Okay.
So, Tom, did you see any of this?
Did I go outside?
Did you do any of this?
So, my mom actually texted me also and was like, "Did you hear? I heard there was this, and this happening. The full moon, the comet, and the lunar eclipse." So I actually didn't, because I kind of knew a little bit more about what was happening. So they say it's a lunar eclipse, but like we said, it's a penumbral lunar eclipse. So that just means that the Earth's shadow, only part of it is going to be on the moon. So you're not even going to really see anything happen, really.
Yeah.
With your naked eye, it's not going to look impressive or anything.
Should we draw a diagram?
Draw a quick diagram.
All right. So we got
a sick Earth.
That's a sick Earth.
And then got the moon over here.
Right.
So it would be where it is for a full moon, because you're only going to get a lunar eclipse during a full moon.
So your head is the sun.
Yeah, my head's the sun, that's the moon, that's the Earth.
Right on.
And then the shadow, when it goes on to the moon, it's only going to be a part that's in shadow, and what we're seeing is an outer version. Sorry, that is very crooked, but we're just seeing the outer part of the shadow, and it doesn't even really affect the moon all that much.
Right.
So the eclipse wasn't all that impressive. The comet, I think you really did need a decent amount of equipment or telescope to look at.
Oh, yeah.
So that was kind of a bust. And then the full moon is the full moon.
Yeah.
You can look at it whenever you really want. So this is kind of one of those things where they're just like, check this, and this out, and it's not really all that impressive. And if I was a kid and I saw this article and I went outside, I would have been pretty disappointed.
Yeah.
So a little misleading, but nonetheless, you're going to only want to, you know what I mean? Like, you only want to put out the cool stuff, because this is irrelevant kind of things to point out.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, this happens every once in a while where, like, the the mainstream news, like your New York Posts and all these things, they like catch wind of this astronomy stuff,
and they kind of want to just swoop it all into one pretty article. Then
and they like blow it all up. Everybody's talking about it. It's I can't wait for the comet. It's gonna be awesome. And what's going on with this? And then everybody gets let down because the comet's hard to see. You know, it's like this big in the sky. And
so usually with those things, when they're like, go outside at 3 a.m, like I take those with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
because sometimes it's not as exciting as you'd want it to be.
I mean, it's cool.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. Like there are amateur astronomers who are getting
checking it out.
Really, really nice photographs of the comet, and it's cool. It's got like a bright green.
I actually
coma.
did see a video. Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
And it's really awesome, but it's not something that you can do without like professional equipment. You know, like
a little misleading, but overall pretty cool.
Yeah. So thank you for asking those questions.
We got that from
Katie and Chris.
As well as my mom had mentioned it to me as well.
Right on. So thank you.
Keep throwing us out any science news you get.
Yep. All right. Number 3 again.
Another topic
from the beautiful people out there. Rick and Joyce from New Jersey wrote into trèSci@gmail.com, just like you can. And they said they want to know if bees are becoming endangered, what would cause this, and how the loss of bees would affect us. So we did some research. Tom, what's going on with the bees, my man?
Yeah, so we did some research. We went right onto the federal government's own webpage.
Yep. So
from the parks.
So we're looking at
the Fish and Wildlife Service endangered species listing.
Yep. So we're talking particularly about the rusty-patched bumblebee. There's a little bit of controversy going on with this particular bumblebee, but it is the first bumblebee species and bee species in the lower 48 United States to be put on an endangered list. So
so first off, they know it's endangered. It's dropped like almost 90%. So a lot of bees are dying.
Mm-hmm.
So that's first off. So then I guess the next general question would be, why is this happening?
Right.
And then what we found out on their webpage, they said exactly, if you'd like to read it.
Yeah. So on their webpage, there is a question that is asked directly: what is causing the loss of rusty-patched bumblebees? And they answered, the rusty-patched bumblebee declined rapidly during a time when bumblebee monitoring was largely limited to a few researchers. No one was aware of the rapid decline until it was well underway. There were no long-term studies specifically designed to document that the decline was occurring or to document why it was occurring. After the fact, researchers are trying to piece together the most likely causes and to set up studies to help verify their hypotheses. Experts have identified multiple threats that have likely contributed to the rusty-patched bumblebee's dramatic decline. Those threats include disease, pesticides, the effects of climate change, habitat loss, and the effects of small population dynamics. It appears that no one single factor is likely responsible, but these threats working together have likely caused the decline.
Yes, so they don't have one answer pointing to it. It's mostly climate change, pesticides, disease, and habitat loss.
Yeah.
So all those things sort of combined, those are what caused the almost 90% decrease in the bee population.
Yeah. So real quick, Kyle, can you bring that webpage up? All right, cool.
Got it.
So I just want to be overabundantly clear that we're pointing out here, this is the government's webpage, right?
Yep,
This
got
is
it right from the
this is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service webpage, and they are listing here climate change
as the cause,
one of the causes of the decline in the population of this particular bee. They're listing it. I agree with that.
Yep.
But they're the ones listening.
They did the science and they're listing it.
Yep. So
so we mentioned that because what's going on, they're trying to put the bumblebee on that particular species onto the endangered species list. But the problem they were having, are you going to read a little summary?
Yeah, sure. So on January 11th, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service announced that the once common species of bee, right, this rusty-patched bumblebee,
yep,
would be listed as critically endangered on Friday, February 10th, 2017.
Yeah, so on February 10th, that's when they wanted to
put
them on the endangered list.
That was last Friday.
Yep,
right?
last Friday.
This would entitle federal conservation efforts and funding toward protecting the bees and marks the first time a bee species from the contiguous United States has been added to the list, which we said previously. A Federal Register notice published on February 9th, however, states that the White House has frozen any regulations that have not yet gone into effect until March 21st, 2017.
So that's well over a month away.
Right. Protections may promptly resume once the freeze is lifted, but many scientists and conservationists are concerned. The rusty patch bumblebee is just one of many species of pollinators that are rapidly declining in population, and according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, about 35% of the world's food crops depend on animals to pollinate them. So
that's a huge portion.
So just to round off your question, the last part of it was, how would the loss of bees affect us? And so
without pollinators, we lose those crops. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
They need pollinators to continue growing.
35% of our food, right, comes from the fact that bees pollinate
and keep
the plants.
Those things growing. Exactly.
So if we don't have the pollinators doing that, then we starve because we already can't feed all the people that that we have to feed. So
yeah, exactly. And James from the chat says Donald will fix it. It'll be down tomorrow.
Thanks.
We'll see.
Thanks for that, James. To add to this, just to make this story a little bit more interesting, while not directly related to the legislation surrounding the rusty patch bumblebee, the problem has prompted some researchers to develop quote-unquote materially engineered artificial pollinators as proof of concept for further biotechnology studies. According to Svetlana Chechetka and her colleagues, quote, a radio wave controllable bio-inspired flying robot equipped with ionic liquid gel-coated vertically aligned animal hairs could be used to successfully pollinate Lilium japonicum flowers, end quote.
Yeah.
So, all right,
when we first
Yeah.
read this, our initial reaction was like, or you could just save the bees. Like,
right.
You could either make crazy nanotechnology flying machines that will pollinate for you, or you can just save the bees.
Right. I mean,
it seems like one is a little easier.
Yeah.
Just save the bees.
It's cool that they did it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
Like,
imagine in a future where all your insects are robots that we made to pollinate our plants. That would be something else, man.
Yeah, that quote was quite a mouthful. But basically what they're saying is they took these basically little tiny drones.
Right? You can call
they
them a drone.
copied what the bees' animal, like, leg fibers, like, look like, basically.
Yeah,
what
so it would have, like, the same textures and properties. So when those little drones land on, the pollen sticks to it the same way it would to a normal bee.
Right.
And then when it gets to the other one, they also allow it to get off.
Right. And what they're saying is it worked, right? The Lilium japonicum flower, they tested the drone out. They were able to fly it into the pollen, fly it into, the stigma, I guess, or whatever.
And then it got the pollen to the other one.
And it fertilized the flower. Like, it worked.
It did.
So, pretty cool. But again...
So that's one small example. I think implementing a lot of these on a large scale would be way more complicated.
Oh, yeah.
But James from the chat says nano drones don't sting. Very good point.
That's true.
But that's your only plus. That's it. Everything
true.
else is way too hard.
I didn't think about that.
All right.
Just to round it off here, the hope is that this research will help lead the way toward using robotics to counteract the declining bee populations and achieving sustainability. So
yeah, it's always cool to think worst case scenario, like what the heck are we going to do without them?
Right.
I mean, there's a minor contingency plan already in the works.
Definitely. All right.
Very cool. Moving on.
Moving right along.
This one's a little more
this one's
science heavy and about space, but we'll break it down for you right after.
Yep. So number 4. Using the European Space Agency's Gaia Observatory, astronomers have observed a, quote, stellar bridge connecting the Milky Way's 2 dwarf satellite galaxies, the Large Magellanic Cloud and the Small Magellanic Cloud.
Yeah, so a lot of people might not know that the Milky Way has these smaller galaxies that are sort of following it around.
Yep.
Like its younger siblings chasing after it.
Yeah, so, they're kind of orbiting the Milky Way, if you will, I think.
Yeah, they're orbiting around it the same way as if the sun orbits around the Earth orbits around the sun,
right?
Then the moon orbits around the Earth.
Yeah.
This is the same sort of thing.
Kind of along those lines. Gets a little more complicated because each star is its own thing with its own gravity, but it can be thought of that way. So that's okay to say. This stream of very old RR Lyrae stars is likely due to gravitational stripping process by which individual stars get pulled out of the small cloud and toward the large cloud after the two clouds most recently passed close to one another around 200 million years ago. Okay, wow, that's a sentence.
Yes.
So basically what we're saying, right, is if you've got the galaxy, right, and then over here you've got the large cloud, and over here you've got the small cloud.
Okay.
And at some point, 200 million years ago, they
The
passed by one another.
The small cloud pass
right?
each other.
Along the way out, the large cloud pulls maybe one star with it
Because it has
from the small cloud.
It's pretty massive. Its gravity pulls in one star.
It's larger, right? It's the large cloud, so it's more massive. So it has more gravity to pull some of the individual stars out of the small cloud.
Yeah, so the
with it.
large cloud passes it, pulls one star out, and then what happens?
So what's cool is once that one star comes with it, now
Some
the large
mass
Magellanic
came
Cloud
with it.
right has more mass. So now it's going to pull another one, right, with it. And so this stream of stars keeps getting pulled out of the small Magellanic Cloud and into
So
the large
then
Magellanic
there's a
Cloud.
string of stars connecting the two now.
Right. So now there's this string, right? And we finally observed them because we've used this sophisticated Gaia observatory.
Okay, so before this observatory, we wouldn't have been able to see those stars. Okay.
So this observatory was really, really good at cataloging these old RR Lyrae stars, which is how we were able to see this.
Okay,
right?
so then...
Because they have to be old because this happened 200 million years ago.
Gotcha. So that's how we're observing it, is those stars are actually 200 million light years away.
Correct.
And that's... No.
No, not quite.
Not quite.
I mean, the occurrence, right, of them
That occurrence
passing was 200 million light years away. They are some light years away, so there is that time.
There is still that
delay,
difference.
but we don't have to get into that. That makes it really, really complicated.
Okay.
Okay.
So now what does that mean for us?
So now, in addition to the Bridge of Stars, right, but offset by about 5 degrees in the sky, the Magellanic Clouds also have a gaseous stream of mostly neutral hydrogen between them, right? So along with the stars,
Then you got the gas stream.
you've got gas, right, that's passing
Okay.
between the two clouds as well. But they're separated, right? So this is because the tidal forces affect the individual stars in a different way than diffuse gas. So the stars, because they are massive, huge objects, point sources, they get affected by tidal gravitational pull differently than a gas cloud does. Okay, makes sense. Definitely. The researchers have been able to put constraints on the density of the hot gaseous corona of the Milky Way galaxy by comparing this offset between the two bridges, as well as looking at how long both clouds have been in the corona. Right? Okay, so now we're thinking a little more abstract again.
Yeah.
We know that our sun is part of the Milky Way galaxy, which is a spiral galaxy. And if we look at where these two Magellanic Clouds are, how massive they are, we can figure out the mass of our own galaxy. Right?
By the way, the two clouds are interacting with the Milky Way based upon the stars that got pulled and the gas that got pulled. That whole interaction, we get enough information to actually get the mass of our own galaxy.
Correct. Because
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very hard to constrain the mass of the galaxy you're in. Right? We can look at another galaxy far away
and observe it and
see
find
how
things
it
about it.
moves about another galaxy and figure that out, but we can't really do that with our own galaxy, right? Because we're in it.
So this was like a roundabout trick of measuring our own weight.
Correct.
Basically.
Correct.
So there's one last little interesting thing to this story.
The results have helped account for the missing baryonic matter in our galaxy and thus reaffirm our theories on galactic formation. So what that means...
Yeah, so what that means is that this fits in with our current theories. So before we actually measured the mass of our Milky Way galaxy, before this point, it was actually, we couldn't account for all the mass. We didn't know where all the mass was coming from, right? We couldn't find it all, but then once they did this and they measured it, they saw that the outer part of the Milky Way galaxy was actually this massive as they predicted and thought it should be. Now it actually matches up with that.
Right.
Correct?
Right. So basically, they're the guys that did all the physics to calculate it were like,
they were right. Yeah.
Hey, the way we want to do this, the answer is not right. It's off by a little bit. And now that we've done it this way, the answer
It
is
all
right.
makes sense.
So it's like, all right, cool, we did it right.
Nice. And then one final aside is that the baryonic matter, they call it, that's just regular matter that you and me know, atoms and all that. That only accounts for 5% of the mass of basically the entire universe, all the matter that we know of, and then the other 95% is still dark matter.
Yeah.
And I always like to bring that up.
Yeah. We
Because
just don't even know what it is.
we still don't know what that much percentage of it, but things like this are really cool. Getting exact masses of our galaxy and trying to really fine-tune these things before we move forward.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Definitely awesome. Sweet. All right. Number 5.
I like this one.
I'm on tonight. You know my hips don't lie, and I'm starting to feel it's right. All the attention, all the attraction, the tension. Don't you see, baby? This is perfection.
You know my hips don't lie. Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah. Those are some excerpt lyrics from Shakira's 2005 hit single, Hips Don't Lie.
Shakira, Shakira.
And it turns out truer words have never been spoken. According to a recent study by Nick Neve and colleagues at Northumbria University, a high-quality female dance is characterized by, quote, greater hip swing, more asymmetric movements of the thighs, and intermediate levels of asymmetric movements of the arms, end quote. To conduct the study, motion capture technology was used to record the dance moves of 39 young women ages 18 to 30. The captured footage was then translated to an on-screen avatar with no identifying traits and rated by 200 individual viewers on a scale from extremely bad to extremely good. The dance analysis may lead to some evolutionary insight, since dancing has played an important role throughout human culture despite not being necessary for survival. Often seen as a courtship ritual to attract a potential mating partner, greater hip swing in female dancers may signal a woman's fitness or even fertility, and asymmetrical arm and thigh movement may signal increased coordination of motor skills. Tom, what do you make of the dance article?
So I like it. And do you think we should show the dances before we talk about them?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we actually do have videos of the dancing.
Yep. This is courtesy of the study, right? And an article by Scientific American. So Kyle, if you could switch over to those videos, we'll play them together. We're going to go with the first one is the better dancer, right?
Dancer,
so this is what everybody viewed as a good dancer. Shake it.
So you see, they say it's really all about the hip swing and then being able to control your arms, move them not at the same time, but showing that you have good motor skills as well as being like fertile to hold the child.
Yeah.
So this is only for men observing female dancers, heterosexual men.
Men and women.
Men and women observe this.
Female dancers.
Observing female dancers. Yeah. So, I mean, overall, I feel like kind of intuitively you know this.
Right.
You kind of know what good dancing and bad dancing is.
Right.
But that's what they say is good scientifically. So, I mean, let's check out the bad one.
Yeah. Did we jump to the bad one already, or no?
No.
All
let's see what bad dancing looks like now.
Let's do it. Oh boy.
Stiff. Yeah.
Stiff, dude.
Real stiff.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot of hip movement. And in the article, they talk about being confident, right? That's what allows you to dance that way.
Mm-hmm.
So then they almost tried to make a stretch to saying that you might be able to isolate some sort of genes of consciousness. Not of consciousness, of confidence.
Yeah.
And I think that's very much a stretch.
I think it's far-fetched, yeah.
Like we said, if you're confident, it's kind of just the events that happened in your life to lead you to be that way.
Yeah.
I don't think you have any genes, but it is kind of interesting that scientifically, yeah, you can say that's bad dancing. You know,
yeah.
They don't have good hip movement. They don't got good arm movement. It's just a less pleasant thing to look at.
Yeah. So what's interesting to me about this is like the fact that they're really, really bold in saying, I think, that this would be directly related to like fertility and choosing a mate, and like I don't like disagree, but I just don't see the actual real connection.
Yeah, saying that this means this, I kind of agree with that.
But they also point out that there's a lot more studying to be done in this topic, right? Because they only picked university students from England.
Yeah, so there's the cultural difference, perhaps.
Right.
Like, who says that this is good or bad dancing?
Right. What does dancing mean in a different culture, right? I mean, maybe it means something totally different to people in India, you know? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think that they're maybe onto something here, but I think it's I don't know. Maybe,
yeah, I don't
maybe
see
not
too many
fully
profound
fleshed out.
implications. Yeah, I think needs more work as well. Totally agree.
But it's cool. Are you a good dancer?
Yes,
Yeah.
very confident.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I like dancing though. A little alcohol always helps. As well.
Of course. I don't mean to brag, but I'm like pretty tight at
Yeah,
dancing.
John gets invited to everyone's wedding.
Yeah. So at Kayla's cousin's wedding that we went to a while back now. This was like 3 or 4 years ago. I was dancing so hard, and this guy on the groom's side of the family, so like not even related to Kayla, came up to her and was like, "Hey, I just want to let you know your boyfriend, he's amazing. He's so flexible. He's got the moves." I'm like, oh my god. So I was just making a real idiot out of myself. But it's what you got to do at weddings.
It's awesome. So you had a lot of hip movement, a lot of asymmetrical arm things.
A lot of asymmetrical movement going. Definitely.
Nice.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's funny. It's funny to break down dancing with science. Because
Yeah.
it's such an artful thing that you try and keep away. But yeah, I guess, I mean, some things, you find patterns in everything, right?
Yeah, definitely. All right.
So, what's our next one?
Number 6. Bill Nye.
Nye, the science guy. Bill. Everyone remembers that.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like. All right.
So Bill Nye, acclaimed TV host and science guy, has announced his new series, Bill Nye Saves the World. The Netflix original was teased on
That's
Nye's...
a bold claim. I'm just going to throw that out
I
there.
know.
Bill Nye saves the world?
I know.
Do we need saving? I think we might.
We might.
We might.
Do we need it from Bill?
Yeah.
We might. I mean, you're right.
He was a good guy back then.
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
All right. So the Netflix original was teased on Nye's Twitter with a minute-long video and a premiere date of April 21st, 2017. Kyle, do we have that video?
Let's check it out. Let's see what Bill
throw
Nye's
it on.
throwing at us. Bill Nye saves the world.
Here we go.
Coming in.
Let's do something fun. Come on.
Bill's
Back.
back. The day before Earth Day. And it's a Netflix original series.
Yeah.
I usually watch all of those. I usually do.
That's what I'm talking about.
So,
It's not
what's he going to
rocket
be doing?
surgery,
Looks like
it's science.
some sort of different experiments. Some sort of
Yeah. So, I mean, it looks...
Way, it says sex, global warming, GMOs,
Yeah.
technology.
It looks way different from
His classic show.
classic show. Looks to be a little bit more hip. Looks to be a little bit more for maybe an adult audience. Not
they say
fully
it's like,
adult,
yeah,
but
they say it's like a talk show, right?
Yeah,
So it's,
right. So it's not like an educational show this time around. But I mean, it looks cool. Right?
mm-hmm.
I would check it out.
Oh yeah, I think I'm definitely gonna check it out.
Yeah, I like the mic drop. It's very bold.
Yeah.
It's very Bill.
Yeah, I always liked Bill, and now I feel like just giving him another shot. I'll check it out.
Yeah,
And I love science, so Bill Nye, check him out.
yeah. So April 21st. That will be right before Earth Day, which is right before the Science March, actually. So I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna try to watch it, but that might be going on if we're...
That's true. Yeah, we might be trying to go there.
Yeah.
But you can always get Netflix on your phone or
That's
whatever.
true.
You can
That's
always
true.
check it out.
That's true.
So anything else about the show
I have a little bit more
that
information
you want
here.
to just read about it?
Yeah, so the statement by Netflix that you saw there says, quote, each episode will tackle a topic from a scientific point of view, dispelling myths and refuting anti-scientific claims that may be espoused by politicians, religious leaders, or titans of the industry, end quote. According to the New York Times, quote, the new show will tackle a range of topics, including sex, climate change, technology, and alternative medicine, end quote. The show will also deviate from Nye's previous series, Bill Nye the Science Guy, by having, quote, an entirely different format. It's a talk show, not a children's program, end quote. So, summary kind of what we were just talking about.
I kind of like it. It's kind of like the show for the people who grew up with Bill. You know, we watched him when we were in school when we were younger, and now he made a new show for us who are older.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when they tried to make the Rugrats all grown up. You know, just follow their audience.
That didn't work so
No,
well.
I didn't like that one, but hopefully this one's a little better.
Yeah.
All right.
Bill Nye's career is really interesting to me because he was like a thing, and then he wasn't, and now he is.
He's back.
And,
Yeah.
He's-
I feel like he kind of came out of the woodwork, right? Where he was like, he smelled the science ignorance, and he was like, "This is bad. Like, what happened? I thought I left these kids in good hands."
Yeah,
you know?
right.
And now he's like, "I gotta come back.
Yeah.
Gotta come back and show people what's up."
We have to go back. It's like Lost. All right, moving on. Number 7. NASA has narrowed down the possible landing sites for the Mars 2020 rover mission to 3 potential locations. And we covered some of the...
Yeah, I was going to say we talked about it a little bit last week.
Yes. So at a 3-day workshop held in Monrovia, California, the agency decided the future mission, which is being designed to collect the first soil and rock samples for retrieval to Earth, will be landing at either Jezero Crater, Northeast Syrtis, or Columbia Hills.
So should I know what those places are by name? Not, right?
No, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Jezero Crater is about 49 kilometers in diameter and is thought to have once been flooded with water due to the clay minerals that have been detected within and around it.
So, stop you right there real quick. Flooded with water on Mars, a lot of people don't know. We actually took a class, the geology of Mars. You learn a lot. Almost all the surface features on Mars point to liquid water flowing on it.
Right.
Correct? We learned about all that it used to be there, all kinds of like deltas and gullies and things that point to liquid water. So that's pretty well known that there was water on Mars in the past.
Right. And
So now we're trying to see where should we send it to look at those places of water, because they associate water with life.
Right. And we want to know how much water was there, what were the other conditions like on the surface of Mars while there was water. Why did the water go away? Was there life while the water was there?
Yeah,
so
those questions we want answered.
A lot of questions there. Cool. So that was Jezero Crater. Northeast Syrtis. So Jezero Crater is within the area of Syrtis, right? But Northeast Syrtis is another general location
direction
that they might send. So Northeast Syrtis, part of the larger Syrtis Major Planum, is another region where waters may have circulated through Mars's crust. Right, so just another area where they're pretty confident there was a lot of water. Finally, Columbia Hills is the same location NASA's Spirit rover explored back in 2004, but with upgraded scientific instruments on board the 2020 mission, more precise measurements could be made. Right, so we've already been to Columbia Hills.
I think we found things like hematite, which they associate with water because the mineral hematite is only formed in the presence of excess water.
Right.
So that's how they know it was there.
And just to finish off the statement here, all 3 locations will present the opportunity to search for evidence of ancient Martian life, as each location has strong evidence for ancient Martian water flow. Right?
Yeah, so basically they're saying we know all these areas used to have water on them way back in the day, and now they're trying to see what information they can get out of these particular spots in reference to life that could have been on Mars.
So I was also reading that the Columbia Hills location was the only one that didn't get like a lot of votes or support.
The one that they were already at, right?
Yeah, and it's for that reason.
Yeah,
the Spirit already went there,
been there, yeah.
And I tend to agree. I think, like, I don't know why...
Even if it is a decent prospect, I would say, go for the other one.
Like, there's a whole planet to explore. So, like...
I go to the same place.
Yeah, like, we should definitely explore a different area of it.
Is Matt Damon the lead scientist, James says? I don't know. I think he's making some weird movie about the Great Wall of China or something.
I think you're right. That movie looks terrible, dude. Oh, boy.
All right, so I think you had a pretty interesting question to finish up this podcast about. So we're doing all this. Well, we're not done yet, right?
Yeah, so we got one more story. This story is going to tie in very closely to the previous story about the Mars rovers. So we will run through this one, and then I have a question for you.
Okay, so that's...
And that's how we'll end the show.
Okay.
So, number 8. NASA has also released a 264-page document detailing a future lander mission to Jupiter's moon Europa. Although still in a conceptual phase, the lander would be capable of touching down on the surface of Europa, digging at least 10 centimeters into the icy exterior, and picking up samples to search for any evidence of microbial cells. Europa is a prime target in our solar system for astrobiologists, since it is believed to have a deep liquid water ocean underneath its 10 to 30 kilometers icy surface. Tidal friction and flexing due to Jupiter's gravitational pull could also provide a source of substantial heat and energy for any life forms potentially living in Europa's ocean.
Yeah, so I've heard that one a few times, that just that gravitational pull as it goes around would be enough to heat up the ocean, correct?
Right. And
I've also read that could possibly simulate things like exothermal vents of hot water based on all that energy,
so
where we've seen, where scientists know that crazy life can exist in these harsh environments.
Right, here on Earth.
Here on Earth.
We see them in our oceans.
So this is why we might be curious on Europa that it might be happening there.
The other piece to the puzzle here is they think that Europa does have a silicate ocean floor. So there would be the existence of thermal vents. So it would have
the silicate floor, kind of like our own planet.
Right. If this moon, for example, had an iron core that probably went all the way to where the water begins, then maybe not. But because it's silicate, we think there's a good chance that the same sort of life could be forming there as it does here.
Okay, cool.
So the last thing here is the report states that the mission could launch as early as 2024 with arrival to Europa by 2031. So this is, happening relatively soon, right? Not like tomorrow, but like sooner than I would have expected, certainly.
Agreed. Going all the way to Europa.
Yeah. So that's exciting because...
So yeah, I want to go back to the other one. I don't know if we mentioned on the one with Mars is the sample they're trying to collect. They want to actually take it out, put it on the surface, and we're saying we'll actually come get that later.
Right.
Remember they said that?
Right. So it's not going to be like the lander picks it up and then comes back to Earth. Like they're just going to pick it up and leave it there.
And be like, we'll get that.
Right. So I don't know if I don't think that's the same sort of thing they want to do with the Europa one. I think they just want to pick up a sample and then let the instruments analyze it on board and then just send the information back, send the data back to us via, radio communications.
And then James from chat says heat plus water plus olivine equals life. If it has an olivine mantle, which is a silicate mantle, it has a very good chance of life.
Right.
That's how it sort of happened here on Earth.
Right.
So making the same analogy. And then what was your last interesting question?
So the last thing I wanted to ask you is, with these last two stories here, it seems like NASA's really, really doubling down on their search for life in the solar system and even beyond.
There's multiple missions, a lot of funding, a lot of people's science, a lot of money.
Right. So
getting put into this.
So my question to you is, it seems like we are searching for life pretty actively. Are we ready to find it?
That is a good question.
What do you think, man?
I think there's a lot that goes into that answer. Like, are we actually ready to find it? Or will we be smart enough to recognize something that we come across as being meaningful?
Right.
Because when you look for life, we define life by the conditions it can exist here on Earth. But what you're actually looking for might be largely different, because what we define life as having DNA and being able to do certain things, that's just a definition of what we observed life doing here on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that problem with actually finding it. Like, we know we're looking at all these places where there's water, right? And we're looking for the same thing that happened. We're looking for the same recipe.
Right.
When it doesn't necessarily have to be that way.
Right. We're looking for life that's life like us, right? So are we ready to find just life in general if it's not like us? I don't know, right? That's kind of the point you're making, right?
Yeah.
Is that like there could be life that exists that is not like us, that is not water-based, that is not self-replicating DNA, that is not, a carbon-based life form. Like, we don't know. We don't know what the systems are beyond the systems that we have here on Earth. So are we ready to find it? I don't know.
Yeah, so then what would you say if we did find evidence for life on these planets that were similar building blocks to the things of Earth, and we find these earlier things like bacteria and things like that? What if we do find those on these other planets? What do you think the implications would be if from these missions we got direct evidence that there was indeed life there?
I think if we do find it, I think that there will be a large group of people. There will be a split in the scientific community, right? Where there will be some scientists who look at that and say, we have to leave it alone, right? We got left alone on Earth, and we are what we are. We have to leave it alone.
All right, that's an interesting point.
And then I think there are going to be other scientists that are like, no, we have to go there, and we have to study it, and we have to see what it does. And I'm totally split. I don't know what side of that argument I would fall on. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, kind of an interesting point to make, though. We're looking for all this life, and I haven't heard a lot of things saying, like, what the implications would be. What are we really trying to get out of this? I think it's just that we all think life's important, obviously, so
Sure.
we want to just look for it, but there's not a lot of end theories of what
What do we do?
what do we do when we find it,
or if
what
we
does
don't?
it mean, or what if we don't?
So yeah, I mean, I'll throw that question back at you. Is like, what is the implication if we don't find it? Like, what does that mean for us?
Yeah, so based on the geology of the planet and the fact that there was liquid water there, and in the past, when we can look at the earlier atmosphere from Mars by looking at the ice and things, if all those things, if all those conditions were met and there still wasn't life there, I don't know if it really tells you anything profound, but it's kind of like, why didn't it happen here? Right?
Right. So, yeah, I mean, we have to then evaluate the environment where
In
life
which we're looking for
right,
it.
didn't kind of blow up the way it did on Earth.
So, yeah, right now there's a huge push of find the water, find the life, and that might not be the case. If
Yeah.
we keep doing this and we don't get good results from it, I don't think you're going to get a lot of good funding to just keep sending out these missions to find places that have water, right?
That's true, but I think that it's going to be important for us to not give up hope, right? We
Yeah,
have
that's
to
very
continue
true.
the search because, I mean, it's going to be, in my mind, it's going to be one of those things where, like, we spend all this time and effort, and we get to Europa, and we look for it, and it's not there.
It's just not there.
And the whole time, right, maybe, like, thousands of years go by, and we're like, oh, man, we screwed up. We shouldn't be looking for life. There's no reason to look for it. And then all of that time, it'll just be on Ganymede, right? Like, right next door on one of Jupiter's other moons. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, we should have looked there. But
Good point. Yeah, you definitely can't give up.
you can't give up. You got to, like, keep looking.
But yeah, you might have to widen your scope. Like
Mhm.
James was saying, that heat, water, and olivine made life on Earth. That was the key. But
That was a recipe for us.
but I
But
don't know
maybe
if that is that the universal recipe. I
Yeah.
think that's what we're trying to find out.
Yeah.
We're looking at places where water is.
Definitely.
But always cool to think about life outside the universe.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's theories of life outside the universe sort of change and go up and down as they get older. Some
Mhm.
people think, no way are there aliens, and then some other people think, of course there are aliens, and then you might say, of course there's not, from science, and then you learn to open your perspective and think about what life really is. So I always like thinking about life. It always kind of allows me to think back on myself and have a different perspective on what life really is.
Right on, man. Well said.
Very cool.
Well, that about wraps it up for the show this week, guys. Thank you for joining us. Tom, thank you for being here.
Had a blast, and I hope we get some more articles and ideas from other people, because those were some of my favorite stories this week. So.
Yeah, big shout out to anybody that tagged us or emailed us with stories they wanted us to cover this week, and a big shout out to those of you guys in the chat.
Yep,
James
in the
Farrell,
chat.
big shout out to you. We appreciate you being here. Guess
And we'll be live next week.
yeah, we'll be live next week. Hopefully, we're shooting for 8:30. 8.
Yeah, around 8:30.
8:30.
8:30.
We'll share it to Facebook and we'll let you guys know.
But thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. Speaking of Facebook, go there, like us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook so you can get all our updates. Give us a subscribe on YouTube. And if you're feeling extra generous, you can check out our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/trèSci, TRESCI, where you can support us financially. You don't have to. Of course, you can get all of our content as we put it out for free right now. So don't worry about it. Just
Yep.
check it out for free. All right. With that, we are signing off for the week, and we'll catch you next week.
See you later, guys.
Cause